वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ
या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः।
Namaste and welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, KYG as we all know it by now. Thank you very much for joining this session. Maya and I always appreciate your virtual presence and a heartfelt gratitude for gracing this occasion. Together, we shall continue learning this wonderful concept of the Sri Chakra, the auspicious wheel, the wheel of abundance, the wheel that gives us a glimpse into reality. Having said that, let us begin with the fourth Avarana. The fourth Avarana is a series of triangles. So far, we have done these. We have done the outermost Avarana. Then we did the Avarana. Avarana is a covering, if you will. Avarana is a gate, if you will. These are called 9 gates. These are called 9 coverings, 9 steps, 9 chakras. All these are different ways to address this idea that this truth is being dissected in 9 different phases for our own understanding. So we have the 16 petals, then we had the 8 petals, And now we come to the 14 triangles. Very early in the class, if you remember, even before we began the Sri Chakra, we talked about shapes, circular shapes, shapes of flowers, and then the shapes of the triangles. So triangles are aerodynamic in nature. That means they will lift you up very fast. And so that energy is there now as we enter this section of the Sri Chakra, and from now on until the very end, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, 8th, and the 9th are all triangles. The 9th, of course, is just a Bindu, a dot. So you have only series of triangles now. So we now begin to analyze and study to the extent that we can, open our mind to understanding the 14 triangles. So let's go to that slide, where in the Fourth Avarna we take only the 14. So I wanted to put that earlier slide in context as to where do these 14 triangles come. Once again, just to give you an idea, if I can go back there, yeah, see, so the 14 triangles come inside the 8 triangles. This is just for your reference when we look at the Sri Chakra. If you have a picture at home, or if you have a picture that you will use for study, then you'll know that we are talking of the first set of 14 triangles. Okay. So here we have those 14 triangles. How do you count them? You go around clockwise. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So you always go clockwise in these counts, just like you go around a temple clockwise. In today's class, and perhaps the next class as well, we have to gain a very firm understanding of what these 14 mean, because this launches us into the secrets of the cosmos. And so I'm going to present to you a concept of the 14 Lokas. I did mention this earlier as we just talked about the Fourth Avarna before the long break. I just mentioned the 14 Lokas, mentioned about 14 being applicable to 14 Lokas. But these 14 Lokas, once we understand how do we study that in the triangle, then it gives you a very, not only an understanding of the Sri Chakra and the triangle and the name and all of that, but it will give you, hopefully, in my humble opinion, if I'm able to deliver well, because it is a complex subject, it will give you an idea of what this reality is that we are talking about. Like I said, now the level is raised for us. With the triangles, the level of comprehension, the expectation that you will follow and understand and use it for deeper meditation, deeper contemplation, a greater awareness begins to come. So let us see what these are. Now, for many of you who are from the Hindu Dharma, if you will, or I would rather call it the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma, which was always there. It isn't a religion, it was a way of life, open to everyone and anyone. It is still like that. There is no aspect of conversions and any of that, nothing, right? Anybody and everybody can learn all these information that is so freely given. So for those of you who are familiar with the Sanatana Dharma, you probably know, oh yes, we have heard of the 14 worlds, right? If you are a Westerner, just bear with me for the next few minutes and I'll explain all of this in detail. But I'll first quench the thirst of this enlightened audience that I'm addressing, because many times I feel I preach to the choir. You already know most of this, and so I have to very cautiously and humbly place it out for your perusal and understanding. So let me first take care of these 14 names that many of you are already familiar with, and then see how we can perceive it differently and then perceive it as part of this Sri Chakra. How does the Sri Chakra give us the understanding of these 14 names? What is the first loka? Most of us have heard of this. It's called the Bhuloka. We call it the 7 upper worlds and the 7 lower worlds. So we have Bhuloka. In pranayama, when you start breathing and you breathe in from the lowest chakra, you say Om Bhuhu. Then you come to the Bhuvah Loka. Bhuvaha, when you chant it as a mantra, like in Gayatri, it becomes Bhuvar. Ra comes because you're joining Bhuvaha and Bhuhu and Bhuvaha. So Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha. Bhuvar Bhur. Bhur comes. But otherwise, when you take out the Ra, when you study them separately, it becomes Bhuhu. So don't get confused. For those of you who are aware of these things, that's why I said, let me take care of that first. Om Bhuhu, separately when you say it. Om Bhuvaha, this is the second word. We'll understand the meaning and all that. Just listen to these sounds, it's nice. Om Suvaha, Suvaha. So when you chant it in the mantra, it becomes Swaha, okay? But actually it is Suvaha. Om Bhur Bhuvaswaha, like that it comes. Okay, so don't get confused because I know some of these pronunciations can be confusing. Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, Om. Then comes the other words that are not generally part of any other mantras. These are worlds or names of the universes or the worlds, if you will. Names of those which come under meditation part of it, that way. So it is usually used for pranayama. When I'm breathing in, I go Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, Om Mahaha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam. So there are 7 worlds, as in the state of the 7 centers of consciousness. 7th being the supreme. Satya Loka. Satya is truth, eternal truth. So you become one with everything. So you have the 6 centers of chakras and the 7th center. 7th, it's not even a center actually. It is Satya. That's all. You just merge into the eternal truth. So you can relate this to the chakras as well. But when we study chakras, we'll come back to this in another context, not as part of Sri Devi Khadgamala. But nevertheless, for those of you who are used to this, many of us have these mantras, the Gayatri mantra in its full. And I've talked about it in a small talk I gave a few years ago on Gayatri mantra. You chant it that way. You breathe in saying Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Suvaha, Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam, Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimhi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat, Om Apaha Jyotir Rasa. That it continues. So it's a different pranayama, mantra for pranayama. All right. But at this point, let us focus on these. So you have the 7 worlds, which is perhaps familiar to many of us. The first three are perhaps more familiar than the others, but I have put it out there and we'll go through the names and all of that in a bit. Then you have the 7 underworlds, as it is called, popularly called. What is the names of these? And I'll come to that slowly. Let's call them underworlds now, right? The worlds above and the worlds under, right? That is how we popularly define it, and it's easy to understand it that way. 7 worlds above, 7 worlds below. Okay, so Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Rasatala. Give me 1 second, let me correct that. Not sure why it's coming that way. Sorry about that. Talatala, Rasatala, Mahatala, Patala. So these are the 7 underworlds and the 7 higher worlds and the 7 lower worlds, shall we call it? I have a different term and I'll come to that in the next slide. But for now, just let's call it the 7 higher worlds, 7 lower worlds. Why am I using these terms? Because these are the popular ways we define this. higher worlds and lower worlds. Sometimes when we take words too literally from the scriptures, we tend to misunderstand them. I'm speaking slowly because I want to gather my thoughts and say this consciously, because this is going to be a very important learning for all of us. So please pay attention here. Many times when we just think of above worlds and below worlds, we hear them in the mantras, we hear them in the chants, we read them in the scriptures as described to us, that there are 7 worlds above, 7 worlds below. And we somehow consider the Bhuloka as the center, and you have 7 above and 7 below, which is a gross literation, translation, if you will. You literally take the translation and apply it in our lives. We say, okay, there must be 7 worlds below and 7 worlds above us. It becomes easy, then it becomes a matter of belief, and then we carry on thinking Satya Loka is somewhere way above us. So allow me to present you a perspective, and hopefully you'll open your mind to receive that perspective. All of this learning is with an open mind. You may accept it or not at a later stage, doesn't matter, but for now, just keep your mind open and receive this perspective of the 14 worlds. What is the true nature of the 14 worlds? Now let us say this is one world. Okay, this is one dimension. We call it worlds. Okay, Loka, because the Sanskrit word is Lokaha. Lokaha means world or universe or dimension, we can call it, right? This is one. Let us call this the unseen world. I hope that word is clear for you on the screen. I chose that color of the triangle. Anyway, if it's not clear, then the word is the two words, unseen and world. So it's an unseen world. Unseen world means it's not so easily experienced. It cannot be perceived. The effects of that world can be felt, but you can't see it, you can't perceive it, you can't do it like we will do with the other worlds. So this is one set of worlds which are unseen to us, unexposed to us. We may not even know that they exist, right? Not so easily perceived through the senses. That's what it means generally. So I just call it unseen worlds. Now, there is another dimension on top of this, and enmeshed on top. It's not like a sandwich where you can clearly take out 2 loaves of butter. You can't separate these two. They are almost intertwined, if you will. I couldn't get a graphic to do that. I just didn't have the time. But they are so intertwined. But nevertheless, we understand as one on top of the other only because this dimension, this world, is the seen world. These dimensions can be experienced, can be seen, can be felt. Aha, I've been there, I felt that. But in these dimensions, you can also see and feel. When I say see, you can perceive and feel the energy of the unseen world. So the unseen world is part of the seen world. It is not separate. One is not above, one is not below. So in these understanding of the 14 worlds, let us not understand them as there are 7 worlds above and 7 worlds below. Somehow there are 7 chakras that go up and there are 7 other chakras that go down. Its bottom of the feet is Patala and the top of the head is Sahasrara, and you separate the two from Satya Loka and Patala so far out that the idea of imagination or visualization and experience can never manifest, if that is the kind of understanding. My experience, my perception differs widely from that. And that is why I'm sharing this with caution and humility. But I have to. This is the truth that as it has been revealed to me, that's my experience. The worlds within worlds, the essence of all the scriptures are, worlds are not separate, worlds are within worlds. Just like within you, there is a world of analysis, right? There is a world of emotion. When I say world, there is a dimension. You enter that emotional state, everything changes for you. Once you're angry, you look around, everything changes for you. Once you're in a romantic state and you're in romance, then everything changes for you. Actually, the situation could be the same, but how does it appear very different, right? It's because you are looking at, you're becoming aware of a universe inside that universe. Sure, you agree with me. So emotions can change. There's a world of emotions inside us. There's a world of analysis and logic inside us. We begin to doubt everything, then everything you look around, you'll be starting doubting. Okay? And so a different kind of reality will present itself to you. Like this, we can create our own realities within this dimension, within the set of reality. Just to give you an idea, give you an analogy to draw a parallel between what I'm talking. Why are we able to do that? Because in essence, really, dimensions are within dimensions. Worlds are within worlds. They are not separate. Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, not one on top of the other. They are not separate. And not separate from the lower worlds, but they are within, enmeshed into this. And I'll explain to you. You'll get an idea as we go along. So within this, what happens if this is one dimension of the unseen and the seen together, enmeshed, presents to you one dimension. Let's call it the physical world. So there is unseen part in this as well, right? So this is one dimension. Within this, there is a whole different unseen world and a whole different dimension of seen world. So we can never say, okay, I got everything mastered in this dimension. Within that dimension, there's a whole set of entirely different dimension. And in that dimension or world, there is unseen and seen. And thus, the reality goes inner and inner and inner. So the way we approach 14 lokas, it is actually 7 as 7 pairs, 7 pairs, 7 pairs. They are 7 pairs, one seen, which we call the higher loka. Higher because it's on surface, you can see it, you can feel it. It's relatively more easily accessible. The others we call lower is because the word lower doesn't mean it's physically lower. It's not a two-dimensional set of reality. So when they say lower worlds, it just means it is under these worlds. Under each of these worlds, there are other lower worlds. So in each dimension, there is a dimension that you can experience and feel and see. And then there is a hidden dimension in that same level, in that same world. So there are 7 such dimensions where there are two worlds in each of these dimensions. That is the truth. They are not separate. They are not separate. They are not, there are 7 above and 7 below, and somehow the 7 below are dangerous, are fearful. All of this is completely misunderstood and is the greatest misnomer that has been spread in the last maybe 100 years. I don't know when it started. It doesn't really matter, but it's wrong. It's not like that. It's whenever there's a darkness, it just means it's not available for us at this point. Doesn't mean it's bad. Let me give an example. Just take this Earth, for example, and any planet in this dimension, right? Why am I saying this? Because this truth is based on what you and I experience. You look at the globe today, there is always one part which is lit and one part which is dark, right? When the sun is above you, you know that this part is lit, and the part below the earth where the sun's rays cannot come at that moment, that is dark. Now, it doesn't mean that the dark space is somehow the lower world. Now, if you could say that in a poetic manner, in a manner for a small child to understand, you can say this is the higher world, world of light and the world of darkness. But that has nothing to do with good and bad and good and evil and all of that. So the higher world and the lower world is a reference to what can be seen, experienced relatively easier than that which is unseen and actually energizes the seen world. There is no planet that we know of that doesn't have this, unless, of course, this, beyond the Saturn, there is no sunlight at all. And Saturn itself is more or less dark. So don't take me literally, but generally, if you see Mars and Venus and Mercury and Earth and Jupiter and so on, you will see that there is day and night. That's what we call day and night, right? Day and night cycle is a night and the day, the dark and the light. Ahoratre, Parshve, like that the Vedic chants go. There is always night and day. So in every dimension, in every world, there has to be night and day. There, in other words, there has to be the seen part in that world and the unseen part in that world. And that is what is presented to us in the form of 14 worlds. I hope I made that clear. So now that we have got this particular understanding, let's take each world at a time and then relate it to the triangles that we saw in the Sri Chakra. Okay, we may not be able to cover all the 7. We'll see how it goes. So we're coming back to the 14 lokas because the 14 triangles have different Shaktis, right? That is what ultimately it's coming to. But you can't just say, okay, Sarva Sankshobhini, she is the one who agitates everything. She is Devi, and just we go on. We can't go blindly like that. What does that even mean? That way you can add any adjective to Devi and Shakti and say she can do this, she can do that, she can do this and that. And then that's how we create a religion, a dogma. Then we believe that there is a Devi somewhere. But she's in every atom and in every dimension as what? As different forms of energy. So how do we get that? How do we get that understanding, right? So that is why Sri Chakra is. Now, before we go to that Sri Chakra, you might say, all right, it may not have occurred to you now, but it might occur to you in the due course in your contemplation. So I'm thinking for you here, right? You might say, okay, so if there were worlds within worlds, then why is it that in the sacred Sri Chakra symbol, which represents the universe secret, why didn't they display that? Why wasn't that displayed? Why is it that these triangles are kept separate? The good news is the triangles are not on top of each other. They are in circles, a circular fashion, if you will, right? That not in this, but in the original diagram, we have placed the lamps in a circle, but the triangles are placed in a circular fashion. That's why we go around these triangles, right? So that's one part of the good news. Nevertheless, that doesn't answer my question. My question is, if it is one on top, one within the other, each one enmeshed into the other, so they are all appearing so intertwined, right? Why is that complex structure of the 14 lokas, why isn't that displayed in the Sri Chakra? So that comes to the way to answer that is actually going to the fundamental idea of Sri Chakra itself. What is the Sri Chakra? It is this expression of a secret that is hidden behind or within. Expression of a secret that is hidden within the Bindu. In the center of the Sri Chakra lies the Bindu, the atom, if you will, for lack of any other word. The God particle, let's call it the God particle. The God particle that science is searching for, that which they will only find it in heightened consciousness. So Sri Chakra is a secret. What is the heightened consciousness? That Bindu. That Bindu, when it bursts open, it opens up into the Sri Chakra. So that Bindu is revealing what is inside it in this manner, so we can relate and understand what are the secrets in this universe. The Sri Chakra is like a budding of a flower. The whole secret of the flower, or opening of a seed, if you will, the entire tree is hidden in the seed. But you open the seed, you can't see it. It has to come out and display to you. Then you'll then you will say, oh, this is a neem tree, or this is a mango tree. The leaves are bitter and the fruit is sweet, or vice versa, and so on and so forth. That revelation is the Sri Chakra, the secret hidden in the Bindu. Ultimately, the whole concept is going to that moment. We talk of being in the moment. In that moment, there is only the Bindu. What is the Bindu? You would ask, right? That Bindu opens and reveals that Devi Shakti, the primordial energy that manifests from the Shiva consciousness as Shakti, opens and flowers itself, and Sri Chakra is revealed, and Sri Chakra is all of the energies that she undertakes and becomes and forms this divine play of life and universes and color and glamour and all of that. All dimensions, everything is all part of that Bindu, because everything ultimately merges into that Bindu. And therefore, these triangles, the way they're shown, is simply a flowering, an opening, to give you and us and me and all of us an idea of the secrets that are revealed inside. So again, you can't take Sri Chakra and study it literally, because that's the only way we can relate to these kind of concepts. How else? In terms of symbols, diagrams, shapes, mantras, words, energy patterns, this is the only way we can relate to it. And therefore, to help us relate to it, they've given us petals, they've given us triangles, and then a design that becomes so complicated as it goes inside within. And so we got to understand that all of these chakras, the 9, they're all one within the other, because ultimately they all go into the Bindu. Okay? We talk of 9 gates, ascending 9 gates, 9 chakras. That is for our understanding. We can write a story. There is a journey I'm taking. I went to the first gate. I met these Devis. We can make those stories, and I had to remember the names of the Devis I meet, and I worship them, and I go into the next one. Then I worship them. I plead with them, and I adore them, and they awaken within me. And then I go to the next. This is for the only way, perhaps, an easier way to relate to these energies within us. But these energies, one doesn't exist devoid of the other or separate from the other. The directions that we put these Shaktis and say, Varahi is this direction, Mahendra is this, all of this is for our understanding. But they all are enmeshed into each other. Everything is completely mixed up. It's all a wonderful collection, conglomeration, all coming from that one pointed Bindu. The primordial Shakti, the energy that's manifested itself. So every other interpretation that we are doing is our understanding. Even the Bhairavas and the 8 directions, everything is for our understanding. That is how we can relate to these things. I'm not aware of any other way to relate. And the scriptures, the ancient yogis and sages knew that our subconscious and unconscious mind can understand symbols. They can understand figures. They can understand sounds much, much better than logical analysis. That can only get you to a point. Beyond that, it can't. And therefore, they gave us pictures. They didn't give us. They invoked these energies, and the pattern of energy that manifested in front of them was presented to us, was described in scriptures, and then the artist took that and manifested for us. So we are actually given a platter. Everything is put in a platter and given to us, right? So this is the approach. We have to understand this primarily even before getting into it. Otherwise, it becomes, he said this, she said this, what is it? We get into logics and analysis, and we lose the essence of meditation, contemplation, and understanding. All of these come from ultimately that one truth. Everything is into the other, interwoven, if you will. Tapestry, that's the word comes to my mind. A tapestry of beautiful colors and art and everything, all the 5 elements and other dimensions that are beyond the 5 elements. So everything is woven into this reality by the Shakti principle, this Devi. That is why Adi Shankara, when he writes one of these beautiful poems, Saundarya Lahari, when he praises her in many verses there, again, those are very powerful mantras for sadhana and practice. But nevertheless, when he praises them, the very first one, he says, how can I even worship something which is way beyond not only my understanding, but the understanding of Shiva and Vishnu and Brahma and all of them. Harihara Virinchadi Birapi Katamakrita Punya Prabhavati. How can I go beyond? Even they can't understand this. In other words, you are so far beyond that. The primordial energy they're talking about. So this is beyond all divisions. That Bindu is beyond all divisions. Right? Anyway, so that is the beauty of this energy of Devi. So when we're looking at her, we say mother because everything comes from her. That Bindu, everything comes from her. We can deal with that emotionally. We can connect to that as a mother because we have had a mother. We know that we have come from a mother, a parent nurtured us, raised us. And so we know that. So we can relate that same concept to the Devi. Okay. All right. It's very fascinating how in these ancient temples like Kamakshi temple in Kanchipuram, you will be surprised. Some of you know it, some of you don't. First thing in the morning when they opened the sanctum sanctorum of Kamakshi, what do they want her to see? Or rather, what is the first thing they show her? Do they light a lamp and show it to her or all of that? What is it that they do? What is the procedure there? What is the tradition there? What is the meaning of that? Now, somebody from the West or somebody from the modern culture, somebody who's not understood this, may have no clue how to tune into what I'm going to just say now. But what do they do is, she is given birth to the whole universe. That is that Bindu concept, right? Raja Rajeshwari, the queen of queens. Simhasaneshwari, like that's a kind of adjectives people use. Okay, queen of queens. She has to see the source from which creation came. What does that mean? It means she has to see a vagina from where the birth canal, from where birth is given. But obviously, for social reasons, they will not have a woman expose a vagina in a temple. That's impossible, right? That's unthought of. What do they do then? They bring a cow. A cow represents the female energy. They lift the tail and expose the back of the cow to the Devi. That is the first darshan she is given. Why? Because the birth canal of a cow represents the primordial birth canal, the birthing of the Shakti principle and everything that emanates from the. She is the cosmic mother, and that cosmic mother is represented in the cow. And the cow's anal region, if you will, from where the calf comes up, that is exposed to the Devi. And so the backside of a cow is then worshipped. Now, those who don't understand the meaning, they'll say this is ridiculous, blind faith, the people are stupid, worshipping a backside of a cow, give me a break and all of that. No, it's a very profound understanding that this is a representation of the cosmic Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic golden egg from which creation comes and all. So that golden egg is nothing but the Bindu. So we have to understand how these things are understood and practiced today, not in some blind, dogmatic way. We don't have to believe it, but there is a lot of thought. There is a lot of these practices, these traditions that have been established. Is not all of them. Some of them have got here and there, but for most part, the essence is this. That is why they bring a cow. That is why the cows began to be worshipped in India, because the cow represented the female energy of the universe. And the birth of a calf represented in the Sanatana Dharma mindset, because of this practice, it became a holy thing. Anyway, so we have to understand these from there. All right, let's come to the 14 worlds. I didn't mean to digress, but somehow I think I was guided to share that. 14 worlds. Let's start with the first one. The first unseen part. The first world, Atala. Atala. Now, before I go to the meaning of Atala, Tala is surface. a bottom. Sometimes even roof is called tala. Tala is that which limits. So the sole of your foot is called tala. So you'll hear all these tala, tala, atala, vitala, sutala, tala, tala, rasa, tala, maha, tala, pa, tala. All is tala, 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 tala. Tala means a bottom, a surface, right? A place to rest, that kind of a thing. Because we are talking of the lower worlds, the unseen. That is the bottom on which it rests, and from there, the seen world comes up. So think of that, right? So anyway, tala means that. So let's call it surface. Now, what is atala? Atala meaning is bottom. Atala. Tala is surface. Atala is bottomless. It seems like there is no end to it because there is an energy here that holds you and you just get trapped in that. And you just keep getting going more and more and more and more trapped. Think of addictions and all of that, right? Once you go in, you just can't get out. You just keep getting dragged in and out. Or sometimes you get these racing thought syndrome. I'm just drawing parallels to these kind of things that happen in us. And you and I can relate to what I'm talking about. Because these are all existing in us. So this bottomless pit, this unseen world is like this racing thought syndrome is, what is that? It is, my child is not called. Oh my God, where is she? She would normally call this by now. That bus should have gone. Why didn't she climb the bus? Who stopped her from climbing the bus? And this and that. And then you just go on getting caught in the cycle of thoughts comes so fast. It is just sucked you into this vicious cycle of negative thinking, racing thought syndrome, and stress starts building up. Same thing happens with anger, right? Or anxiety. All of these are, you get sucked in. And then you can't get out of that thought process. Atala world, that is the dimension of the Atala world. Bottomless, seemingly bottomless. Okay? So this is that world of magic and illusion. This is a world of magic and illusion. In other words, when we say what you see around is not real, today, even in science, they say what the eye see, the colors that the eye see is not a real color. It is just a reflection of the lights. The color can change. If the reflection changes, the color appears different. So did the eye see blue, or did it see which tinge of blue, which range of blue? Was it gray? Was it blue? Was it even white? So everything can change with the reflection of the sun and the light and the shade, right? So there is magic. There is illusion that is around us in Atala. Okay? The Shakti, the energy that is activated in Atala when we invoke her, when we tune into that energy of Atala. What is that energy? What is that Devi called? And that is the name of the first triangle. Sarva Sankshobhini. Sarva Sankshobhini. Sarva means all. Okay, that Sarva is going to come in all the 14 names. Sarva Sankshobhini means she agitates everything. When this Sri Chakra begins to reveal itself to you, then there is agitation in this Atala world. Things which were caught as illusion, you say, no, this is illusion, I don't want it. And so that's agitation happening. So our sadhana, the spiritual practice that you and I do, we begin to agitate. She awakens, she begins to agitate everything. You think this is real? Wait a minute, now watch. Oh, wow, that is not real. Why? Because when I had the first laddu, it was very tasty. When I had the second laddu, it was more tastier. But when I had the third laddu, that taste began to go down. When I had the fourth and the fifth, it was nauseating. I didn't want anymore. Is it the problem with the laddu? It's an illusion that there is something there. Keep going, keep going. So that kind of illusion, so she agitates. It's inbuilt in that energy. Atala. This is the unseen world, unseen dimension. We're just touching the fringe of it. We can't go too much into detail. There are Puranic stories from the Devi Mahatmya and so many other Puranas. That would take weeks and months just to analyze them and understand them. But I'm just opening your thought process here. So that is Atala. Now the seen part on the superimposed in this, or intertwined in this, woven into this, twined, intertwined. Okay, thanks, Maya. Intertwined into this is Boohoo. Boohoo and Atala are intertwined. What is Boohoo? Boohoo. What is the meaning of Boo? Boo means a plot, a piece of ground, which is what Earth is. Earth is a ground. In the cosmic scheme, it's a small plot, right? All the planets, they are physical entities, ground, matter. So Bhuloka. In Bhuloka, there is Atala intertwined in it. Enmeshed in Bhuloka is Atala. So Bhuloka. Bhuloka is perceived by the senses. All the five senses can see things and all of that. But inside, along with this, certain things you can't see, right? Certain things like microbes, bacteria. If I tell you your body is more than 90% bacteria and only 10% of human cells, but there is more, 94, 92 or 93% is just actually only bacteria, and they are the ones who are living in us. So when we feed them, we get healthier. It might seem odd, but that's the truth. But can you see them? No. You need to have a specialized equipment to see them. So they form part of Atala. That doesn't mean they are bad. There are bad bacteria as well. But we need it's called the microbiome. We need that kind of good bacteria that also digests our food and all of that and sends the nutrients into our system. So Atala is that kind of the bacteria, the viruses and all of that exists. Bhu is physical, that senses can perceive, can see the sunrise, the sunset, the flowers, the trees, and all the other five elements. What is the Shakti in Bhu? Now I have put a number next to these Shaktis. We'll come to that. So the Shakti here is Sarva Vashankari. The Shakti in Bhuloka is Sarva Vashankari. Sarva Vashankari. What is Vashankari? Vashankari or Vashikaran, as they call it in Hindi, is captivation, fascination. Aren't you and I captivated by this world? Aren't we fascinated by everything in this world? We are. So we consider this is Atala. Tala means this is where we want to be. But this world is Atala. There is a Atala energy in this. That means it will suck you and hold you. You'll keep going there because it's bottomless. There's no bottom here. Seemingly, there is a bottom, but it's seemingly bottomless because it's of the magic and the illusion. So the Purana story goes that the son of Maya called Bala, he is the one who resides here and he creates these magic. He has these maidens who will come and pretend to be angels and confused and all like that. Stories go on and get far more complex. We won't go into that. We don't need to. Just understand. You and I know that this world is full of illusion and magic, right? So the energy of Devi in Bhuloka is Sarva Vashankari. All right. Vashankari is captivation, very captivating, very fascinating. There's beauty, right? Sunrise, sunset. You go trekking in the hills or just go walking out in the garden. Why do you and I need a vacation out in nature? Or why do you ask for a cruise out in you just want to be back there. That is the divine energy is speaking to you there. That's where Sarva Vashankari, everything she does is very captivating. Now, next to each of these, Sarva Sankshobhini, there is number 1. Sarva Vashankari, there is number 8. What is that? These numbers? These numbers are numbers of the triangles. We did this earlier once in the 16 petals to understand the link in the 16, and eventually it became a chakra, right? It is very similar to that, but it is not linking A to B, but understanding that these two are one on top of the other, or one is enmeshed into the other. 1 and 8 triangle. We got to understand that. So the bottom 1 and the top 8 in that diagram is actually one and the same. One is seen, one is unseen. One is Bhuloka, one is Atala. Atala is Sarva Sankshobhini. That's where the agitation starts. And Sarva Vashankari is the eighth triangle. So those numbers will come. So in the end, when we put all the names and numbers, you'll see them all linked together. Captivation. This is Atala and Bhuhu, Sarva Sankshobhini and Sarva Vashankari. So you cannot, while we chant the mantras, we are going to go around and do it. But the understanding should be that this is one part. 1 to 7 is one part of the unseen part, and 8 to 14 is the top, the other part, the seen part, or the one that is experienced. Okay? Even the words seen and unseen are perhaps not really justified. But you know what I'm saying, the lower worlds and the higher worlds, the darker worlds and the lighter worlds. So that is how we have to understand this, even when we are doing the puja and the stuff. So if we have this greater understanding, and then when we chant, we will know what we are doing, why we are doing, and where is the partner for this, right? So that's how it completes the 14 triangles. That is the energy of Sri Chakra. These secrets are not written anywhere. They have to be revealed to you. They have to be revealed to you. These are not taught over internet and YouTube videos until now where I'm sharing this, but I've shared this with great humility and after deep prayer and introspection. I was not able to even put these in words until now, like I told you, till Kala Bhairava Ashtakam came. But nevertheless, it's now manifesting itself. So this is how the Sri Chakra has to reveal itself to you. Okay? So Atala and Bhuhu. Let's go to the next one. And we'll stop with that. So now that you got an idea. The next one is Vitala. Atala, Vitala. There are two ways to say that there is no surface, no bottom, no surface. There's nothing to rest on. Vitala is similar to Atala. Similar to Atala. Okay? Let's hold on to that. This represents the subconscious, unconscious mind. For the lack of any other thing, I'm drawing reference from the Western thought process, but it does make sense. So our vasanas, our samskaras, the hidden imprints within us that is actually making us do things. There are instincts within us. There are tendencies within us that we have carried across lifetimes. Can you see them? Do you know what they are? We don't even know some of them. They're so deeply embedded. But we are aware of them because of the actions. Then we go back and say, why did I do this? And then you go deep inside and try and correct it. So all of that resides in the subconscious mind, the power of the subconscious mind, the energy that lies is very powerful. So this Vitala, in fact, I use the word Hatakeshwara is the name of Shiva. So Shiva is a golden Shiva actually. Hataka is gold. The golden form of Shiva resides here. That is why in especially in the West, they have understood the power of the subconscious mind. In 1920s and so, if you want to ever read a very good book, old books, not the ones that came 5, 10, 20 years. I'm talking of older. There is a great author, Joseph Murphy. Read his book on the power of the subconscious mind. It's very fascinating, right? I read it many years ago. Somebody gifted to me when I was in Puttaparthi, and I found it so fascinating that I still have copies of that book and different versions of that same edition. So it's gone through many editions. Anyway, Joseph Murphy. The point here is the power of the subconscious mind is understood, and that is the energy of Vitala. What is the Shakti here? The Shakti here is Sarva Vidravini. Sarva Vidravini. From Bhuloka, we come to the next Loka, because this is going to be related to Bhuval Loka, right? So in this Loka, everything is liquid. In other words, there is no solid matter here. There is no hard and fast rules. You can't just put your finger on something. The subconscious mind, where does it exist in your body? Can you put your finger there? No, it's like water everywhere. It's liquid. So the energy of Devi liquefies everything. So I call it liquefaction. Vidravini. Sarva Vidravini. Everything is liquid. In other words, water has no shape. You can give it shape. That's the energy here. She says, I am available. You can use my energy to build your reality. That reality is built in the subconscious mind. You see how deep this goes now. So when we study subconscious mind and all of that, you don't turn around and say, no, I believe in God. I don't believe in the subconscious power. No, that is actually Devi. She's saying, I'm present in you as a subconscious energy, as a liquid. So you can form whatever shape. Pour me into a glass, I'm in the form of a glass. Pour me into a vase or vase. What do you say? Vase, Maya? Vase. Okay. Pour me into a vase, I take the shape of a vase. Pour me into a jug, I take the shape of a jug. So liquefaction is a very powerful energy because she is available for you and me to pour. That's why we use water for a lot of rituals, because water keeps reminding us everything can be shaped. Water can be shaped, right? It's transparent. It represents humility, purity, transparency. You put it behind a color, the water appears red. Water has no color. Water has no smell. Water has no taste. But you can add taste to it. You can add smell to it. You can add color to it. That is the power of Vidravini. Sarva Vidravini. She can liquefy everything. So when we want to change those vasanas and deeply inbuilt tendencies, or reset our subconscious, if you will, then we invoke Sarva Vidravini. We know, we say, Mother, you are there with this power to liquefy these hard-held tendencies that are making me do these things. So you liquefy it, right? And then allow me to shape it. Then what happens? Once it's liquefied, what do? The seen world helps us shape that energy. Bhuvar, Bhuvaha or Bhuvar. Bhuvah Loka, the second Loka, which is enmeshed into this Vitala. That meaning is, the meaning of Bhuvaha is atmosphere. So just like this has no surface, subconscious mind has no limits, literally. So too, the Bhuvar Loka has the atmosphere. Where does atmosphere end? It's just everywhere, right? It's vast. Atmosphere, the upper sphere. There is imagination, visualization, which is why visualization is a very important part of the subconscious mind. Imagination, visualization, Puranic stories, and all of this come under this. Devi came with 8 arms. In one arm she had a trishul, one arm she had an axe, and this and that. She was riding a lion. And you'll say, wait a minute, what is 8 arms? Imagine. It breaks the heart conditioning and it liquefies the hardcore conditioned mind. Breaks it. Vidravini, she comes. So the energy here that we can, that is what Sri Chakra is all about. Visualization, imagination. Okay? The energy therefore there that guides us is Sarvaranjani. Sarvaranjani. It's recreation. It's pleasure. Ranjani is, I use the word recreation because recreation, what does that mean to you? When you close your eyes and think of recreation, it's just nice time, good time, calm time, stress-free, right? So Ranjani, there are so many, it's very, very difficult to translate some of these in terms of one word. Sanskrit is one word in English because in context they change. I had a great trouble translating Bhairava to ruthless. And then one of our viewers said, why not relentless? And I'm like, wow, that's a great word as well. So it becomes very difficult to translate a word into another. So take these meanings with the context of what I'm talking about. That's why I'm explaining so much when I talk about that word. Sarvaranjani, everything becomes pleasurable. Everything becomes recreation. Everything becomes like a vacation. What is your dream vacation? You can make it happen. Because it's Sarvaranjani and Sarva Vidravini, they work hand in hand in this level of Vitala and Bhuvaha, the second triangle, and the ninth triangle. Sarvaranjani. Everything becomes a recreation then. Life becomes a beautiful journey, a happy journey. It's like a vacation that we take. Let us stop here. I think we ran out of time. But I want to thank you all for this patient hearing. I know it's a hard subject. So please be patient and let us persevere and continue this learning with great humility and deep prayer. I will just chant 2 lines of Aim Kleem Sauhu Sauhu Kleem Aim and end this satsang.
Aim Kleem Sauhu Sauhu Kleem 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 Samasta Lokaah Sukhino bhavantu Samasta Lokaah Sukhino bhavantu Samasta Lokaah Sukhino bhavantu. May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय, सियावर रामचंद्र की जय, सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय। नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। ओम शांति शांति शांति।